this is the AWS console after you've set up your account. Now, I've already written some automation for you in CloudFormation, and so I'm going to take advantage of that service. So in the top search bar here, let's go to CloudFormation. And I already have a stack for you designed here. So when you download from GitHub, it's going to look very similar to this. And inside here, there's going to be an AWS CloudFormation and this server cluster here. So that server cluster corresponds to this set of code. There's a series of parameters here, and it's going to create all of these resources and have a few outputs if you want to tie it into any other CloudFormation stacks for those that are familiar with AWS. So without further ado, let's go ahead and click that Create Stack, and we are going to upload our template here. So the very first thing is navigate to it. Okay, and you'll see it kind of spun there a little bit, and then it created this S3 bucket. So let's go ahead and open up a new tab here and go to S3. Here we have it. There's our S3 bucket. And if we navigate into that bucket, you'll see that it just uploaded our file, and it also prefixed it with kind of a randomized set of characters. Because in S3, you have to, just like Windows file structure, if you try to upload a file with the exact same name to the same directory, it'll overwrite it. So this way, it always keeps every file unique. So before we click Next and get started, let's view it in Designer to see what this CloudFormation stack is actually building here. So you'll see there's kind of a lot going on with this stack. But basically it boils down to this. There is an Autoscaling Group that has a launch configuration attached to it. The launch configuration tells the Autoscaling Group when you want to start a new EC2 instance, and EC2 is where we're going to be hosting our server code. That's the virtual servers that Amazon provides. EC2 stands for Elastic Cloud Compute, so hence the two C's there. But that tells it like the image to use, which we're using Amazon Linux 2, the image type, which we're using T2 Micro, which is available in the free tier, and for the first year anyway, and other things like scripts to run on it. So we'll kind of get into that. So it's kind of hard to decide where to start here, but let's start at just start at the top here. So I give you an option to automatically update a DNS record to automatically point at the new EC2 instance that is started by the Autoscaling Group, if you so choose. And this is the log group here that will be used by the Lambda that is going to be generating that connection for you. So if you ever wanted to debug that Lambda under the hood, like for example, the DNS record is not getting updated when it first starts, you can actually hop into this Lambda and find its log group and see all the logs. So I provide that for you here. This next one is a little bit of automation that I include in the CloudFormation stack. So if I was to hard code a specific image ID, a year from now, that would be like super out of date. So what I've done here is that this will automatically find the most recent Amazon Linux 2 image. And so it's a custom resource, and that is included in the CloudFormation stack. So when the launch configuration is set up, it'll find the most recent Amazon Linux 2 in your particular region and use that as part of your launch configuration. The next thing is the EC2 security group. And security groups are like your firewalls for your EC2 instance. So I just, by default, I've set it up in a way that will allow you from your public IP address only to SSH into it on port 22 and it only allows secure communication outbound, and then it will only allow the port that your server is running on, and by default I've set that up as port 7777 because I've done that in all of my other tutorials, so I'm going to do that the same here. And then this next thing is what's called an SNS topic. So basically you can have a topic and you can subscribe a ton of different things to that one topic, and then if you want to execute everything that is subscribed to it, you throw a publish message to the SNS topic, and it will fire everything that's connected to it. And so if you look at this, you'll see that the Lambda is registered to it, and then there's basically an invoke permission that's given so that I can invoke that Lambda from the SNS topic. And then the final thing is the Autoscaling Group is the one that is pushing that publish message to the SNS topic, which triggers the Lambda, which generates the logs for the log group. And of course, that Lambda will also generate the connection in Route 53, which is the DNS record. So the other thing is we're generating an S3 bucket that you're going to use to upload your server code to. And I have a set of automation that as soon as the EC2 server will start, it's going to look inside of this server bucket in a particular key path, and it's going to download everything in that key path to the server. And what we want to upload there is our server code, and then it will navigate to a specific file in that path and basically start it. So basically, every time the server starts, it will automatically start our server code for us, which is very, very nice. And then the other thing here is this is a part of this. So in order for us to be able to access the most recent AMI image, I need to create an IAM role and attach a policy to it. And policies are permissions that a particular role or user can execute. And so now what you can do there is you can attach this role to the Lambda that is going to be executed when we call this custom resource inside of our CloudFormation template. And this Lambda will find us the most recent Amazon Linux 2 AMI. And then this is a policy that's attached to our S3 bucket. What this policy does is it prevents common scenarios that new users could have a mistake by doing, which is, public uploading or public access control lists. So basically I prevent all of that. So I really hardcore lock down this bucket, and so it forces you to take correct actions on that bucket. And then this is the actual role that will be applied to our EC2 instance. This role has a policy attached to it that only allows us to pull from this S3 bucket, and we cannot do anything else in our environment. So your EC2 server is very, very locked down and hardened that way. You can harden your EC2 server even more, but I'm just doing it in terms of our architecture design here. And then this is that policy that I talked about that it's attached to our role. Now this is the actual Autoscaling Group, and you'll see this Autoscaling Group is firing a lot of different things, like it's getting our AMI here, it's triggering our SNS topic, it's attached to our launch configuration, basically what this does is you can specify a cluster of EC2 instances that you want to run. Now by default, I set that to only one, and what the nice thing here is it has built-in health checking. So basically, if the underlying hardware of the EC2 server was to go bad and fail, this Autoscaling Group would automatically detect it, and it would start a new EC2 instance, which would trigger all of these things, and it would delete the old EC2 instance. So basically, it's self-healing, and it makes your environment self-maintaining so that you spin it up once, and you can leave it there till the end of time, and know that you'll always have a good server running. This does not guarantee high availability, because when you are starting, if you only have your auto scaling group set to 1, basically you're saying delete the one that was there and replace it with a new one. In order to support real high availability there, you need to change your server code so that servers can communicate between each other to share state. So if someone loses access on one server, they can immediately connect to another server and have it be synchronized. Now, by default, my code is not set up that way, so that is going to require some code logic for you. So I just set it up the way that it currently is. And then this is the policy that is attached to our role here. This is that Lambda role that's going to be applied to our Route 53 registrator. And then this is the launch configuration that tells us the types of instances, the user data, which is basically scripts that will start as soon as the instance starts. There's a lot of things in here. Have a look at that. And then this is the profile that's going to be attached to our EC2 instance. So you can't attach a role directly to an instance. Basically, you convert that role to a profile, and then that profile gets attached to our EC2 instance. So now that we understand what is happening in this CloudFormation, let's go ahead and execute it.